But then we have this method to purify our negativity.
Okay, so then what is that?
So then we'll read the next paragraph. Defilements are obscurations that function as veils to our innately pure awakened awareness. The stronger the accumulation of negativity, the thicker the veils. Negativity, or dikpa in Tibetan, so as you can see, it's the Wiley spelling, S-D-I-G-P-A, but pronounced dikpa, is sometimes translated as sin or misdeeds, but it essentially refers to any non-virtuous action of body, speech, or mind based on craving, aversion, or ignorance. It is these negative actions that build up as karmic seeds, which ripen as suffering and serve as obscurations to awakening. The literal meaning of dik in the word dikpa is to beat, and this connotation is strongly present in the term. It implies that right there, together with the negativity, comes the impact of suffering. So just like the hit of suffering, if you will. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, looks the same category, right?
Yeah, everything's the same category.
Oh, okay, just read.
Yeah, okay. Throughout the countless lifetimes we have lived since beginningless time in all sorts of different forms, we have accumulated a great deal of defilement and negativity. Unless and until we purify the negativity that is built up and cease creating new negative seeds, we will not bring an end to our wandering in samsara. There are many ways in which we create negativity and different classifications of non-virtues. There are, of course, the 10 non-virtues, which are like the foundational compass for what constitutes wrongdoing. There are the very severe negativities of the 5 acts of immediate consequence. There are also the 4 heavy downfalls of transgression.
The 4 categories.
I didn't, I'm sorry, I actually, yeah. So actually, I'll have to upload a different file, I think, or maybe you guys might have the right one. Let me see. Actually, Drupon, can I see yours? Let me see, because I think this one is the right one. Yeah, so I added, so you guys have the correct one. I was reading an old version that I had printed out before changing this. There are also 4 sets of 4 heavy downfalls. And of these 4 sets of 4 heavy downfalls, there are the 4 heavy downfalls of transgression, the 4 heavy downfalls of disparagement, the 4 heavy downfalls of wrong views, the 4 heavy downfalls of most serious violations. Likewise, there are the 8 mistaken paths. There are the transgressions of the outer vows of individual liberation, the transgressions of the inner bodhisattva vows, and the transgressions of the samayas of awareness-holding tantrikas. There are general degenerations such as being untrustworthy or losing a sense of shame or decency. Okay, so we have in the footnotes an explanation or endnotes of what each of these are. So we have, so first we have the 5 acts of immediate consequence. So in the first endnote it says, the reason why we have this term immediate consequence, sometimes it's also translated as the 5 acts without interval. And this refers to the fact that someone who commits any of these acts is said to fall directly into the hell realms in the very next life without any bardo, without any intermediate state, or taking another birth or intervening birth before that rebirth in hell. And so these 5 acts of immediate consequence, or acts without interval, or sometimes also translated as the 5 heinous crimes, are killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, drawing blood from a Buddha with a malicious intent, and causing a schism in the Sangha. So these are the 5 acts of immediate consequence. And then we have these
Jiva here.
The word in Tibetan is Chiwaji, are referring to these 4 sets. And the first of these 4 sets of 4 are the heavy downfalls of transgression. There's kind of like a lot of different ways you could translate this, but I just went with transgression. So they are transgressing your worldly commitments, transgressing the Vinaya discipline of the Shravakayana. So that's like violating vows of individual liberation, transgressing the training and discipline of the Bodhisattvayana, which is, transgressing the Bodhisattva vows, transgressing the Samayas of secret mantra. So then the next one are the 4 heavy downfalls of disparagement. So that is first disparaging an Arya out of ignorance, someone who's actually an exalted being. Disparaging truthful words out of pride, or like the Buddha's teachings. Disparaging the qualities of your friends out of jealousy. Choosing and rejecting deities out of partiality, or discriminating among the wisdom deities with a mind of partiality. And then the next of these chiwaji are the 4 heavy downfalls of wrong views. So they are the views of great meditators who have become too proud for physical devotional practices like prostrations. The views of scholars who have become too proud to acknowledge those superior to them. The views of retreat practitioners who become overly attached to food and provisions. The views of tantric practitioners who become ensnared by wealth and material accumulation. And then we have the 4 transgressions. Oh, okay.
That Hindu Chetan so some Dambinata, Tendwaya, Retang has been a Chu Chigi Yunarawa, Chu Chigi Yunaya, Chetanga to Tati. Okay, I start again. That Matso de la Kogedekni or is. In a Gedekni Nale, not so Geva Chigi Yuna, Tatan Yamdu, Tindipa Yomaris, Roa. Tegana Yitang as a publication of Gua, or that the Geva Kandi do Yunaya, publication is. In however, Samring as a Kariyungu or a Labina, Tene, not so Pepe Lagua. Tene Carsa Toba Suchi Ngajarches Toba Mambo Scholarina, Tene, Congajar or Tangi Yores. Da Gomba Suchi Senaches. Yores. That's a Hamaoro, they have Magoa. That Hambotella attended Yako.
Okay. So we have the 2 essentially opposites of virtue and non-virtue, and whether even in the accumulation, so generally in the accumulation of virtue, even though the virtue itself is virtuous, there's still, many ways in which one can still be accumulating non-virtue. And of course, there's the potential for purification. However, there are...
General, so there's not together virtues and non-virtues.
They ripen individually.
Or individual, so this not together.
So they're not like mixed. It's not like you have virtue that's mixed with non-virtue. The virtue is virtue and the non-virtue is non-virtue.
So the virtue is the purification. so purifying who make the virtue, then they purifying the non-virtues. But sometimes, however,
Or you're saying that purification kind of happens automatically through the accumulation of virtue.
right, exactly.
However, sometimes, there are these blind spots that happen for people who are accumulating a great deal of virtue, like scholars, like Buddhist scholars, for instance. And the obstacle of, for instance, attaining a high position. Because through that high position, there often enters pride. And then that pride becomes a source of non-virtue. And
Sense
likewise,
to be virtues, but
it seems to, that they're accumulating virtue, but if it is motivated by pride, then not necessarily. And likewise with meditators, it is said that one kind of a very common blind spot for serious meditators is to become overly attached to insignificant things. So to have a sort of greedy mentality of, regarding these like small possessions or, food or provisions or what have you.
collections.
To collect, the mind of collecting.
Page yours. Chupa sarbayinas. This is new Gumaris.
So there's like a saying, if someone's a new practitioner, Dharma practitioner, they wouldn't buy gold.
No buy mada.
Oh.
The lamga gana ser sadi yona.
They wouldn't collect gold.
No.
Oh.
Lamga gana.
On the road?
Yeah, ser yona new Gumaris.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so even more specific, like if a new Dharma practitioner is walking down the road, if they see gold on the side of the road, they wouldn't be inclined to like pick it up and store it away.
In a chupa ningbi aritis.
But an old practitioner would be, pouncing right on it.
Temada.
No?
Ariti lamna. Tene peda the huro.
Oh,
Yingba
okay.
hansaya the soil be hall chide jo beta. Useless. So tadong this maybe
Okay, yeah, that's different. I think actually we've said this before. But an old practitioner would be like quick to pick up like even an old shoe filled with holes.
No, soil, right?
Soil.
Not soil, soul. What called this? Like
Sole, the sole of a shoe that has
already
holes in
whole.
it, with holes.
But still thinking, oh, maybe someday something they use this one. That's just this kind of like job or whatever. Pero that today majumba go is that Karsena ko Karsena da go chupaina kesi chupaina da di ngaso chu chigi yona da ko Africa no chano is.
So the point being that as a practitioner, there are obstacles that can arise.
Yeah, some days actually this kind of also interesting, right? I think the meditators too. So meditators, the two ways, right? So, or meditators or this country too, country, some, I think maybe every country, but so some countries, they're starving, like there's no food shortages, right? So probably long time. And then later on, even though there are kind of enough food, plenty food, but because habit, previous experience just as much as the greedy and the collect the food. So same way, I think I understand some meditators kind of similarly, meditators in the cave, they're always the shortage, food. So first the meditation, they are only thinking the Dharma practice, but here experience some days maybe no food, very difficult, even like Milarepa story, so on. So the later on, this tendency is kind of like remaining. You understand? Mm-hmm. So later on, maybe whatever they get, okay, collect, okay.
So their focus becomes more on collecting provisions.
Right. So that is possible, not all, but. Okay. So tiga na ita tanda nga so jiwa he se ya jido.
But I don't think we didn't do the last one.
Right, but it is related to your yes.
So this is related to these 4 categories of 4 transgressions, or heavy transgressions. So then the last category are the transgressions of most serious violation. So the most serious violation concerning the ultimate nature of equality is making discriminations and grasping to characteristics. The most serious violation concerning samadhi is creating obstacles or interruptions for oneself or others. The most serious violation concerning the 5 acts of immediate consequence is causing a Buddha to draw blood with malicious intent. And the most serious violation concerning the 10 non-virtues is holding wrong view. So then we have the 8 mistaken paths, I think we translated them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 8 mistaken paths. So actually we found a number of different explanations for this, and actually Drupon Rinpoche found a really involved explanation that branches into like 8 categories of 8 or something like that. So we decided not to do those right now, and maybe we'll do them later. But one of the descriptions for this Lopa J, or these 8 mistaken paths that we found, is that they are like the opposite or the inverse of the Noble Eightfold Path. So that is wrong view, wrong thought or intention, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, and wrong samadhi. So that covers those, didn't he?
Okay, keep going.
All right, so then the next paragraph says, one aspect of recognizing our own defilements is acknowledging that we have most certainly engaged in all these different categories of wrongdoing at one point in time or another, throughout our countless lifetimes in cyclic existence. So bringing to mind all the things we feel a sense of remorse about in this life, all the negativities we know of, as well as all those we do not remember but have likely accumulated in former lives, bringing them all to mind, we confess them in the presence of Vajrasattva, apply the 4 powers, and engage in the practice of purification. Keep going. It is important to realize that unless and until we fully and permanently uproot the defilements by reaching the state of liberation and awakening, we have the complete spectrum of possibilities comprising the 6 realms present in our own continuum of being. Sometimes we hear stories of horrible things that happen and think, how could anyone ever do such a thing? In that thought, there is the assumption that we ourselves would never do something so awful. But the truth of the matter is, given particular causes and conditions, we very well could be capable of doing such a thing. The potential is present as long as we remain within samsara. The root of all such terrible negativities is the 3 poisons. Sometimes one or another of the poisons flares up and becomes massive when meeting with a particular set of causes and circumstances. When they go unchecked, there is the potential to cause irreparable harm. Especially now that our world has become so connected, It used to be that the harm of disputes and fighting remained person to person, or at least somewhat localized. And so this is also what, if you remember, Drupon Rinpoche was talking about this last week during this session. But nowadays, when the three poisons and the mind streams of world leaders and powerful individuals go unchecked, they have the potential to lead to widespread destruction, even nuclear war. And when it comes down to it, even something as destructive as blowing up the entire earth all starts with afflictive emotions and people's mind streams. It is important to recognize the root and potential of such negativity as the same emotions we struggle with in our own minds: craving, hatred, and delusion. So the first step in purification is recognition.
Okay, that thing as the
Gracias, Tila. Necesito un corito.
that TG la Kare la Vena Tene, Tangazo, the Dipatela, Nikapres, that in my Hugins.
So then the next section that we'll cover here is the understanding that the defilements are temporary. Or understanding the temporary nature of defilements.
Teneda Tanda de Count Shubana Yere, that's a Kahiji Hutine to Ayon degree. Tendu Tatangi Count Shubana Yere, Nazo or Tene, Gawa Kanchina, Tene, Dipik Nyembo, Dipa Yaya Chadi or is.
So he said he'll continue a little bit, and then we'll have some time for discussion or some questions. So whatever, whatever the Gewa Gang, China?
Gewa Kanchina, the Gewa Kandiji Chiguna, Lunga, Yizom Gewa Karchiguna, the Pik Nyembori, the Bayatu Grace.
So we can also understand that any virtue that we do, it becomes an antidote to negativity, like any virtue of body, speech, and mind, and can become a method of purification and of confession and purification. Any virtuous practice, any virtuous action.
That Tigana Yinayang could keep on Kargogiore, Samotangures.
But what is we have to think about, what is the key point here?
Tini Dangaso Gewa Chiva, Tangi Contuba Nagiri, Tini read Yinayang, that not so target, Roa, Karcha the Oresena, Darden Zimbandi, Koranchama, Terwa. Tin Duko, Darden Zimbadi, Chun Roguyuna, Digiores, right part. In and Sunday, Tangi Contuba Nagiri, Topasuchi, Najarchi, Siachi, could. Gewa Drugu Yobanda or Jiglayan, Jikarse Darton Zimba, Najela Sopinion, what is your children, Digio Mares.
But so the key point is that the virtue is hitting the target when we do that virtue. So what is the target? The target is the mind of self-grasping. So if we are practicing or utilizing, approaching that virtue in such a way that it's causing our mind of self-grasping to diminish, then that kind of momentum for wandering in cyclic existence becomes less powerful. It sort of slows, the propensity, the samsaric propensity somewhat. And we know we're on the right path, that we're going in the right direction with our virtue. It's serving the correct purpose. But on the other hand, if we kind of miss the target with our virtue and it becomes something that instead becomes, for instance, like a source of pride, then it's not functioning in the way that it needs to diminish self-grasping. In fact, it may even be building it up more. And then it can become even a practice of non-virtue because it is tainted with afflictive emotions.
That Tigana Yingata, Geward Duvia, dekwa ya labina khandariya ta nga so yuji le tengi yorwa pena cha hana konjo jamro ina tene kon yu jamro tene ta thandanda wo ina ta dorje sembe gumde dorje samba tene ta nga so yuji le gumgu yores yina ya most important karha kogo gres labina nga so yuji yowanda wo ji chine yu tike tene nga so la ji karsa dikpa jangan roya anda wo dang bena jamdo ina nga so ta ji jabde ya anda wo te techi yu la ra le yo mares
So when practicing virtue or confessing negativities, and to function as purification, we also usually have like an object of reliance. So whether that's like our objects of refuge, or in the case of practicing Vajrasattva, it's Vajrasattva. And what is the most important aspect of this is that, you know, we have this sense of reliance on an exalted object an exalted object of reliance, which becomes our support.
Oh, that thing, I think very important. Karsena, jamdo control some you bares, Nazo control some Japsona, control some yore. Nazo Dorje Samba, what Nazo control some Japsona, control some yore, Japs Marona, control some yore, Kotugi Six bares. Nazo Dorje Samba Gumde China, Dorje Samba yore. Nazo Gumde Magina, Dorje Samba yores. Yina yang, Jig Dorje Simbe ke Chanam Jogdan, Minju. Dekpa ya top down mother di ko karsana ngazo individual ra le di yores
So the important thing about this is that, so this is really important to recognize as really crucial in this process of purification, because you know, like the objects of the three jewels, you know, they're ever present, actually. Like the enlightened mind of Vajrasattva is ever present. Whether we rely on the three jewels or not, whether we rely on the enlightened deity, you know, awareness of Vajrasattva or not, they are always kind of looking upon all beings with compassion. But what determines, you know, whether the blessings of Vajrasattva can enter our mind stream or not, or the blessings of the three jewels can penetrate our mind or not, that depends on our reliance. That depends on the individual.
Yinada control some ke chinabdan dorje sembe chinabde also no caution is
But from their side, the blessings of the three jewels, the blessings of Vajrasattva, there's no question. We don't need to question.
Yina big caution ngazo rangli yores ta.
But the big question is like us, and whether we really rely on them or not.
Ta ngazo ki ngone ta dekpa dorje samba gomna dorje samba la nupa yona mena samba ngazo pe semke tengme yi chemewa semke tengme teba mena tene ngazo ta dorje samba nupa me so chare ko ta dekpa ya to guyo samare samna ko yo mares ko ya to ya yo mar ka ngazo so yo wa the creator ngazo ro wa tene ta ko semi ni semzeji le ne to guyo ma ta teba tente mena tene teba mena tene ya to mare yeche mena ya to marwa ta ti indu ko lo simni koram peda ta karsa semzeji do ta trenya dorje sembe kumde chigiyo ta kona peda ko karsa ko ta yini 태좀 maybe tona ta dekbade ko jangro gre zamne teba yeche tende je yona ta nga zo so bre ko 100% dekba ya to gro chi to gre benata ta lama densa to thedo wa lama densa khati yore labina tene jeta lama tembe kabla ko lama la yabo chiya kecha mare sungdowa
Lama what?
lama tembe kabla lama khoran la yabo chibi kecha mare is kharsa rang la chinlam jogu gona tene te gom gres te sungdowa chura lama chukunda lama de turkunda gona chura maung ba turku to byake kokabi yore is lama longju zobe kunda woji dona chura longju zo kokabi yore is tene lama te chukunda gomna chukutuya kokab yores ta lama khona thama bare da ko tene de jere samna ko rala thama ba ma ton rosa yo marwa oda ti indi ti koji kan top dam ma top te te ta de ba kora ya thubu yu samna ya to ta samu dang gres
So, so it really, if we don't have, what really is sort of the big difference, it comes down to our attitude and our reliance and faith or the lack thereof. So if we, in practicing Vajrasattva, we really don't have the juice of faith. Like if we're just kind of doing it, but there's sort of like this doubt in the back of our mind, like, does this really work? Like, can Vajrasattva really purify my obscurations? I don't know. So if we have this kind of attitude, then it's not going to work. It's not going to help us. It's not going to purify our obscurations because of the lack of confidence from our own side. Because we won't be able to develop the single-pointed concentration that is needed, supported by a mind of faith, to really allow the blessings to enter, to really allow the magic of the practice to function, if you will. And so if we don't have any faith, if we don't have any confidence, if we're sort of half-hearted in our practice, then it's not going to do that much for us. It's not going to be able to really purify. And so when we do practice and we're relying on, the support of Vajrasattva, so this reliance part is the first of the four powers, the power of support, the power of reliance. And so it's very important that reliance is really stable, that it is a reliance that it has no doubt. And so then if we have that kind of reliance, then 100% when we engage in all the other four powers and, confession, it definitely has the effect of purifying negativities. So it's sort of like, when we talk about reliance on the Lama, reliance on the Guru, it's really similar. It's really not so, when it comes down to it, it doesn't have so much to do with the Lama from their own side. It really has to do with our own faith. Because if we have a mind of faith and pure view, then we have connection to the blessings. And so, as it is always said, if one sees the Lama as a Nirmanakaya emanation, then one will eventually be able to achieve the Nirmanakaya oneself. If one sees the Lama as the Sambhogakaya, one will be able to produce the Sambhogakaya. If one sees the Lama as the Dharmakaya, one will be able to realize the Dharmakaya. So like our own qualities, our own development and level of realization is directly proportional to what we project outward, what we see, how we choose to see the object of our faith. And as it says, if we see the Lama as an ordinary being, then we probably won't get very far. We'll just, have him be able to, remain being an ordinary being.
Okay, so yeah, so we have some questions or comments, please.
Thanks, Beverly. Yeah.
I have a question. about the preferences on deities.
I
right?
saw your face when I said that.
Yeah, I was so curious about that because, like, my question would be, maybe in a relative reality or something, that there would be deities that are benefiting to the practices, but in ultimate reality, they're all the same thing, or is it like? How does that work with the preference thing?
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
confused.
can you explain it more,
Yeah.
like what that really means?
Right. So that this is I think two parts. Samotango grace. Okay. Tanga so first no china karsena karcha diore labina nga so ta penacha shabina nga so digunga junda wena ta chaza chembo ngande zunduta ngande naro chodo la sopa keta tela karsena ko hundreds thousands tela nyamlen chine tik koda nyamnyong tela tene ko mixe ke penacha shabina nga so jamru ka nang ngondo do wena dorje samba gongoya tega na yi ya ya do na tene nga so yedam nganden ki yedam la tene yang karsena de demjo gongoya tene ya ya do ina tene na ro churo gangla phamo gongoya da ti koji karsena jubi ki china samje me chawa yubi jumsen thala tene nga so tinya na chigi yore stati chegres.
Okay, so first, to kind of like, there are two parts here. So one is like, one way to look at this is like, so to give, for instance, the lineage of the Drupon Kagyu and the practice of the fivefold path of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa. So with the support and power of lineage, there are like hundreds of thousands of realized yogis and practitioners who've done all of these practices. And all of that kind of contributes to the potency and power of the practices. So in the inner preliminaries or uncommon preliminaries, with the practice of Vajrasattva, and then as you progress in the stages of the fivefold path of Mahamudra, when you get to Yidam, the Yidam deity that's practiced is Chakrasambhara. And then when you progress even further and you get to the point of practicing the 6 yogas of Naropa, the Yidam deity that's practiced in that context is Varahi, Vajravarahi. So these deities have, and especially in this context, have this very strong potency that's based on blessing and lineage and all of this practice that has been done over the course of hundreds of years by hundreds of thousands of practitioners.
다 드레스 드네 다 잭디 가르세나 양 초랑 라바나 이래 양고 가르세나 지 삼랭가서 가르세나 와타 초랑 라바나 이래 라코랑 게 퀄리티 들라 드네 제바텐데 유지 말이 디나 양고 하긴 틸레스야 들라 양고 만다만다 요라와 디인도 드네 양고 지 하긴 틸레 만다와 요와다 내가 나 이게 인디비주얼 모네 양 jing doba yoro nga tsering bubu do sambanda wata.
Oh, de la kamendo. De gainsana de domba de chewa je nangla yorwa. Dene de ge nangla chiki gainsana denda de ta de buye ki tsek kande yamba dengamendo yene yang denda de pena domba nyamnya ki duksho yorwa. Dini pena di tsame nga la duksho gape gare yore. Dini yang di migewa chula. Is it this one? No, it's not. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying. Yeah. So dini di kache korwa tape giji. Rekji yorwa deni dampo pena marikba giwang ne de pakpa che la korwatapa deni yang de ngajal giwang ne de dimbe kitsek la korwatapa se wa deni de trado la tene deni rang or de topo tomo la korwatapa Dini de chadang or chori ki wangi hla la langdor cheba. Hla la langdor cheba. Dini di la tini di kone mo de tom lang yore gain sena morangi sorwa la o kashe la gagi yo la kashe shera. Tinda de nyamlin chea ki duba me. Dini di yang tinda de chori ki wang. So di gi tunda gare yore la fiore.
네, 뒤 돈다 가면 dos. 돈다 처럼 요 말이다. 텔레폰가 저 against 치기 요 말와. 이나 고 냠내라 정말 냠내 치토 그 말에 라자라 동자 요로와. 몸다 요래인가 히 치토 그래인가.
But di gi tunda gare re dine.
칼라스.
Pena dina de chori gi wangne hla la langdor chena.
어다 되는 가서 텔라고로 라지 야보 말에 라지 텔라고레 마도 베디.
Yeah.
가서 냠내 치마지 인relate 가
Okay.
말했어.
Sorry, I just had to clarify.
Okay,
So he said, oh, okay, so this is not to get confused because it doesn't mean we can't have preference. Like in our, who we feel drawn to, who we want to practice, or what have you. But it is when there's this idea of like, oh, this deity is good, but that deity is bad, that kind of thing. Like if there's a rejection.
Heavy duty,
Yeah.
connotation, not real. Yeah, of course, we cannot, like the deity hundreds, thousands deities, we cannot,
Practice them all.
practice, so that no problem. So, or yeah, sometimes we can, sometimes we not. That's okay. But this is like heavy duty thing, Hannah. So okay, this is kind of whatever terrible deity or this no deity, whatever. That's.
It's just having a strong attitude of partiality when it comes to your Yidam deity and against others, or this one is superior to that one, kind of.
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you.
Sean has a question online.
Thank you.
Sean, can you?
Hello, Tashi Delit. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question about the purification you were just talking about, Rinpoche. You mentioned, you need faith in Vajrasattva and then you do the 4 powers. I've read that if you do Vajrasattva enough, there can be like a sign in a dream or something. I'm just wondering, is it like it's enough just to do the 4 powers and really believe it's purified, or
do you have to receive the sign?
would you have to receive the sign? And if you did receive the sign, what would that indicate? It wouldn't be all your bad karma, or would it be a portion of it, or what does that really mean, I guess?
Rita san tela karsna resort roa. So nyamle chi tene sama chi tene san yona tene. Ko yak boro ida ta tela ko ye nga ta san tong son ro ja sa wa. Nyamle chi go mare ke cha yo mare sta ko chi. Nyamle chi bi ken driven ro ji.
So when it comes to signs, like signs are, that's a good sign that if you have signs, if you have good signs, then it means you're like on the right track with your practice. But in no way does it mean you're done. Like if you have a sign and then that means that's it, you don't have to do anymore. It is a good sign. It's a fruit of practice. But there's nothing that indicates, in a sign that sort of indicates that you're thoroughly purified or something.
Right. So sometimes interesting, right? So the sign mostly in the dream, so we.
Signs mostly happen in dreams.
Right. So dream is kind of interesting too, So maybe dream is sometimes true, but sometimes just illusion, So this not really
necessarily a sign.
Rely on anything. So. But I think the main thing is I said before, faith, trust. So that's, I think, most important, so.
Okay, Michelle has a question online. Michelle, can you unmute?
Hello. I just have, this is probably a silly question, but I was wondering, are there any times that these defilements are actually beneficial and helpful for us sometimes on the path, as in maybe a protective manner, or just like it's might be inner wisdom or discernment in a way of saying, no, you shouldn't be doing this. I mean, it's like sometimes anger could be a reason to, oh, wait a minute, question and like, well, where do I need to change, or what do I need to do? So that's just one idea or thought. That- just wondering if they're ever helpful.
Sometimes na de dripa yapo yang yamba yo sigre pena sometimes na nga to control angio na deni de pena nga to ge yang pena odi digmare sherap rawo yamba ki
Ore 다 데려와 단기 공투가 나겠다. 드바데 무엇이야? 개체모레스 라인바. 레스.
Well, like he said before, first of all, like it is important, like it sounds like I think this is where he's going with this. Like you have to recognize defilement as defilement. So maybe the next thing he would say is okay. We'll see what he's going to say
근데 이나
next.
제타다 가서 뇨mom바티 테 고요나 야고 말레스.
If afflictive emotions are there, like generally, like there's no afflictive emotions are not good.
이나양 다 the hu 뉴뇽라양 benefit you sigres.
But it is possible.
Small part, small chance.
There's like a small way in which maybe sometimes they can serve some benefit.
Right. Tibet at the page yoris.
So there's an example in Tibet, in Tibetans.
Tene manchogna tene chobochag mares.
Like
Choba roji majabna the real sincere chobochag mares yoris.
So if it is, they say if you don't have some arguments, you won't really become friends.
Not become real friends.
You won't, or without disagreements, without arguments or fighting, then you're not real. It means you're not real friends.
So sometimes, arguing disagreements, the kind of solution, they are later on understand, they become really friends.
So
But that's not all.
that was in English. Yeah, right?
So this,
yeah, okay.
the possible, but mostly case is worse, you're right.
Okay, well, I'll just I looked it up to remind myself, what are the major defilements in Buddhism, and like one of them it says greed, and then it says desire. So I'm thinking, well, desire can't be all bad because, well, you need the desire to want to attain enlightenment. You have the desire to want to get rid of your defilements or, attachment. Sometimes, being attached to those you love, I don't find that as a bad thing. Because if I was so disattached to my family, I'd be like, screw it. I don't care what happens to you, and I'm not going to want to help them. And so, so that's kind of where I'm coming from in a way.
Yeah, so it's like, so you have a point.
이래 당가서 넣어봐요. 이나양 다 대요래. 가서 자와치야 넣어봐도와.
So you're right. To accomplish anything, we have to have desire.
Right.
Desire functions as motivation.
다 텔라 칼라고 요르스는 가서 넣어봐대 the distinguishing between careers나 마차 마당 때목 메이스. 그체레네 개바오스 다 디게 꾸네 라네 노바요나리 다 간다고 가리요나티네
And this is where the subtlety of recognizing a wholesome desire and an unwholesome desire comes in, because what is essentially defines virtue is anything that is motivated by non-attachment, non-aversion, and ignorance. So when those poisons are not present, then what the activity is wholesome in nature. And so when we have a desire that is directed toward the wholesome, that's a different kind of desire.
So benefit sentient beings, benefit
Like-
the family.
Like to benefit sentient
then
beings, to
make it
benefit your family. That's not attachment wanting to benefit. So that is different from what is a motivating desire based on attachment or self-grasping.
Thank you. So no question? Okay.
This may be a pretty direct question, but I was struggling to imagine in my mind what causing a Buddha to draw blood with malicious intent was, and I was just curious if we could receive examples of that.
That the kind of yoris, Penacha Havina, that Sanjay Ponang, Matutanda, the Payomaris, Yung Sigmaris. In the Yanta Chancho, somebody who's in that the Getchate Kari Chungbre Lavina, Sanjay He Shobi Kabla, then that Sanjay la daching it in yoris.
Da chicken.
That he gets a mother tanda, that the Yomaris.
Yeah, so he said, well, it's not really something we have to be worried about right now because you know, we don't have like a fully, you know, manifest Nirmanakaya Buddha like the Buddha Shakyamuni in our during, you know, in our world right now, except, you know, it could be with bodhisattvas, but what it is referring to is that, like, for instance, during the time of the Buddha had enemies, and there were people that hated the Buddha, like Devadatta, who wanted to harm the Buddha and kill the Buddha. So that's kind of what it's referring to, is somebody who actually, you know, with a weapon, like, wants to harm or kill a Buddha.
Yeah, I assumed as much. I just didn't know if there was
Sure.
any broader application for today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Like taking his blood from his finger by pricking him or something like that. I don't know. But with malicious intent.
Hello. Hi, Rinpoche. Thank you for the teachings, and Virginia for translating. So something just stuck with me when you say we're constantly making negativity just by existing. And then I wonder, like, aren't like the vows we take like a medicine or like a way of counteract like that? For me, like, it's always like wake up and put your intention, like whatever I do with body, speech, and mind may be of benefit to beings, whether it's good, whether it's bad. If I make a mistake, because I'm human, may even the mistakes bring benefit to others. So aren't those methods, because to me it's like the light is always more powerful than the dark. So when there's darkness, you turn the light on and there's nothing. So aren't those like very powerful medicine? Don't they, like, because otherwise, like, we're just going down and down and down, you know what I'm saying? So, but for me, it's like, this is why we're so lucky that we did make the Dharma, because then even we do make all these mistakes, we have this intentions and these vows and this, like, the Bodhisattva vow, for example, and something that just creates so much light and so much love that counteracts that, or no? Isn't that?
Right. In that, I think you have good question.
It's a really good point and question.
That 드린 것도 가리오래 라비나 강사직로 다 닉바 요 말레스 랍나 라비아 요 말레스 닉바 요레스 랍요르와.
So-
텔 디고다 nga sondela 카스나 then ngazo de kas recognizing our own defilements. Te ko ti chi de la ta dikpa yore yugi jum sente ngazo labu yore.
So what you say is true, but the reason for the emphasis right now in this is because, like, when he started off mentioning that there are these two types of individuals when it comes to the recognition of defilements, and that there are some who are like, oh, I don't really have much defilement. And so this is to kind of counteract that tendency to
Emphasize.
recognize that we do, to emphasize that we all create a lot of negativity, and that's the necessary in the practice of purification. The first step is recognizing the defilements, recognizing the negativity. So that's why.
Te
he's-
choron laba na yire sta ngazo di dikpa changcha te gecha mares gewa yore spena cha cha wena ngazo jamru domba hugu yore tega na ye ke te changcho sembe domba huta te so ro wena gewa juncha asung ba sung do ta gewe choji na samji mecha ba gewa yore is.
So yeah, and to your point, like it's not like a completely hopeless case. It's not that we're just going to be, that we're only accumulating negativity, because there's a lot of virtue. And in fact, taking like the refuge vows, taking the bodhisattva vows, it's said that due to that, the power of taking those vows, we have sort of set in motion an unbroken continuity of virtuous accumulation that is constantly going, even in times of unawareness or, of virtue. So there is a lot that is also working in our favor in terms of the accumulation of the wholesome.
다 대가 나 인가서 라 템버 잠지 나라 어머니 배 차지 동바 잠지 기요 코라라 참마고 용그레 송고요 봐.
And for instance, it said even just thinking of a deity like once, or reciting even a single recitation of the Mani mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, has the power to, fully bring one to the state of awakening. So, or to liberate, one from the lower realm. So it's yeah.
Do you remember this the Lama and old woman story?
Oh yeah, I remember.
Huh?
He told this recently.
The Lama,
A lama and an old woman.
old woman.
Dumbazoro now?
저런 약부하고도 해.
So, there's Pachihago.
다 락현데 다 양초양초 라베 오면 다 데레스 되네. 데 라마제당 되네. 게모지 요레스. 데 라메키다 게와치는데니 상지그레 게와치는데니 요레 요다 페용종 거와 추 페용 데데데데 라나 되네. 라타 참트니 라부 요레스. 데 라부 되네. 아마티 칼라우 요 라나 오다 차랑서 라마 초랑케 추 페용데니 요레 추 페용데니 요레 라부기도 가스. 근데 인도 다 초랑다 상제데지 of course. 초랑 상제 그레스. 이나가 게모야 상제 투 그레스. 페용트니 요나. 야 초랑케 딕바요레 페 랍 그레스. 티나다 나다 100% 마 여러분도 그레스. 티 마시 바 초랑야 여러분도 시 그레스. 티나 가서 디 밸런스 인자간 로그로 와.
So the story is that there was this old lady who was listening to this Lama give teachings, and she came
She's
up
really
to
smart.
him afterwards and said, Lama, you just talk about the benefits of virtue, wow, there's this benefit and that benefit, and it's, just this,
Or this power of these lamas or yidams or these mantras and practice meditation.
and so if what you say is true, then Lama, of course, you 100% are going to be attain enlightenment. But even me, this old woman, I'm also going to attain enlightenment if everything you say is true, about just how powerful useful and beneficial virtue is. And then she said, but on the other hand, Lama, you say, oh, there's, negativity, non-virtue is so horrible, so pervasive. Then based on what you say, if what you say is true, then I, this old woman, 100%, I'm going to hell. And Lama, you too are going to hell. So she said, so this is sort of exemplifies that
So we have both. So.
We have a question online. Danny asks, reading Gampopa, he mentions in one section that one of the powers of the 8th level Bodhisattva is power over karma. It says this means they can change the effect of karma from a particular life to another sphere, world, realm, or birth. What exactly does this refer to?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to read that one more time. Sorry.
Reading Gampopa, he mentions in one section that one of the powers of the 8th level Bodhisattva is power over karma. It says this means they can change the effect of karma from a particular life to another sphere.
To another sphere, that's what's
to another sphere, world, realm, or birth. What exactly does this refer to?
So kung de pache gampopa ge pecha che kare de namtar do logina. Dene sa jeba ge jongjub senpai yana dene de le so wang la yorwa wang du dugi osarwa le. Dene dinda yana pena le di yang yapo ko masong pena dinda de legi nupa de pena yang gyurwa che tukere pena de se shimbala yang kakazo tuba yang na dinda de kam kakazo tuba de le so le la wangsha yoba do chagi yore dene digi dinda kare yore.
다 데려와. 그 가르스나디 사 제바 토는다. 그 데려와. 가르스나 고 용모바 장사로 와. 용모 장사에 휴라되네. 다그 가르스나 고랑 징가춘 지텐디오 I want this, I want change this, not like that. But 그 가르스나 고 automatically 되네. 지 가르스가 심장 통치야라 되네.
So it's important to understand that when we talk about an 8th level bodhisattva, so this is like a very high level of attainment in an already having reached a very high level of awakening. You've long purified the afflictive emotions, so there's no afflictive emotions there. So to have power over karma and to manipulate karma is not out of personal desire. It's not like, oh, I want to be born in this life, in this realm, or in this sphere, but rather it is something that happens automatically without intention, in the way that we think of it, to achieve the benefit of sentient beings.
Okay. So maybe dedication.
Okay, page 24 in your prayer book. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikungpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. And page 19. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Changchub Senchog Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ge Kyurche, Ge Panyam Pa Me Payam, Gong Ne Gong Du Pelvarsho, Chang Chub Sem Cho Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam Ke Kyurche, Ke Panyam Pa Me Paryam, Gong Ne Gong Du Pelvarsho.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful Sunday. And just take note that our teachings, Sunday teachings on Vajrasattva, will be paused for the next 2 weeks during the winter teachings. And I will also be sure to send out an email to you all to just a reminder about the dates and when we will pick up again with the course, with the Sunday